Welcome into the Inside Scoop. We are live from Nashville, Tennessee. I am your host, Josh Newberg, and today is Wednesday, August 27th. The season, it's almost here. A couple more hours until kickoff. We've made it. So let's talk some recruiting. Before we get into it, guys, do me a favor. Hit subscribe to the Rivals Recruit channel. We are almost to 100K. You guys did phenomenal this summer. So keep it going. If you watched any of our shows, make sure you're subscribed to the channel. All right, also, time to join Rivals today. Get 1 full year of access to The Athletic, plus all the On3 national and fan site content. So the great Pete Nako, Steve Wiltfong, Chad Simmons, all their information, plus the fan site content as well. I'll put the link in the description of this video. All right, so today's show, we're going to get into it with Ohio State recruiting insider Jeremy Berm, a big monster weekend in Columbus, so we're going to break that down. Plus, Paul Strelo of Tiger Illustrated. He'll give us the big names in Death Valley for the big matchup of Clemson versus LSU. Then we got national analyst Adam Gorney with his bold predictions for the remainder of this 2026 cycle. Big show today. Let's get to it. Let's talk about Ohio State. We got big noon kickoff. It has recruits buzzing. Fans are buzzing too. Everybody is looking forward to this Ohio State-Texas game. We got Jeremy Berm of Letterman Row. You can also find him on the Austin and Berm Show 97.1 The Fan YouTube channel. So when you talk big noon kickoff, right, it sounds good in theory, but those who follow recruiting kind of understand it's not as beneficial as one would think.
It's in some ways it's a detriment, especially a team in the Midwest. It is a national recruiting power that wants to bring in guys from Florida and California and Texas, especially during the football season, because a lot of these kids are playing late on Friday nights, and a lot of them now, a lot of cities around the country are playing games on Saturday. So you lose some opportunities there. That's not going to impact too much this weekend for Ohio State. I mean, we fully expect over 100 recruits. Upwards of 300 total recruiting visitors when it comes to families and stuff like that. So this weekend will work out nicely for the Buckeyes, but it has been a concern in the old days. I mean, Urban Meyer would fight pretty hard for night games and for later in the afternoon games to make sure that kids from around the country could travel. That has not worked out under this new TV deal for Ohio State. I think they are the clear bell cow of the Big Ten when it comes to the financial side of things, and Fox knows it, and they put them in that spot. Again, this week it probably doesn't matter. You got the number 1 team in the country versus the number 2 team in the country, according to the coaches poll. A huge rematch of the Cotton Bowl, 2 of the most talented programs in the nation. So the ton of star power coming to town this weekend, but in general, it's not great for recruiting when it comes to getting kids on campus. So for the early season marquee games, it's a real challenge. Later in the year, November, maybe it works out because a lot of kids are done, but that's not the case now.
Yeah. So like you said, I mean, they're still going to find a way to pack like 100 top recruits on the sidelines of this one. When it comes to, between it being a noon kickoff and the 2026 class almost being full, is this Saturday recruiting event more for the 2027, 2028 classes?
100%. This is a week where we'll certainly see most of the 21 Ohio State commitments in the class of 2026 in town, but this is not about supplementing them. This week is about giving those guys an opportunity to do some much needed camaraderie building and class building as far as just getting to know each other better. We will see like Caden Dixon Wyatt and Chris Henry Jr. Coming into town from California because their game was canceled this weekend. So I would fully expect to see a good modern day contingent in from that class. And then there's a bunch of 27s and 28s. That this weekend is about building the future. It's about excitement in that way. The last couple of years, the recruiting dead period has taken a break at the end of July and allowed for teams to do like late July barbecues and that sort of stuff. That's not the case now, and that's okay for Ohio State since they start with this type of opener. This is not normally the case. It was this way in 2022 when Ohio State hosted Notre Dame to start the season, and that game was as star-studded as I've ever seen. But certainly this weekend, Ohio State will host some kids inside of Ohio, kids who had a good start to their senior seasons in the class of 2026, just to maybe start, stoking some fires there and see if anybody pops. But it's absolutely about building the future in 27 and 28, but mostly 27.
Yeah, and if you guys go to Letterman Row, there is a full list of visitors. Saw a couple 5-star names on there. Who are you eager to see from this 2027 visitor list?
It's cliche, Josh, especially in the last couple of years when we discuss Ohio State football recruiting, but I think Brian Hartline may have the top 4 receivers in the country here this weekend. In Jameer Brown and Monshen Sales and Dakota Garant and Easton Royal from Louisiana coming up. So that's a pretty good place to start. I think I haven't checked the On3 rankings today, but I know with Jameer and Dakota and Monshen, which is interesting, just an anomaly in itself, considering we think the top 3 receivers in the country are from Ohio, Michigan, and Indiana. So to bring up somebody like Easton Royal from Louisiana is huge.
Yeah.
But then you also have David Gabriel Georges and Penn State commit.
Kimon Spell.
Kimon Spell. He'll be in town.
Yeah.
You've got Noah Roberts coming from Arizona. So offensively, there's not a position that the Buckeyes aren't going to be pretty well stocked at this weekend. Brady Edmonds, the Buckeyes 27th commit at quarterback, will not make it. He'll be in town next week instead because of some scheduling conflicts. But it's really going to be a loaded list. But it always starts around here with Brian Hartline and the receivers.
Yeah, we're definitely going to be talking about this one on Sunday from all the fallout from the weekend. One last thing I want to touch on. Yesterday, we filmed the Wiltfong Whip Around with Steve Wiltfong, and we did an Ohio State segment, and, the fall is kind of circle back season especially for programs like Ohio State, where Steve said, Ohio State is going to win more games than some of the teams that took recruits from them during the summer. And with that, it comes opportunity. So he mentioned Luke Wafel as one of the names that he would watch. Who are you watching when it comes to Ohio State flip targets this fall?
Inside Scoop fans and football fans everywhere, listen up. Whether you're cheering on the Florida State Seminoles or the Alabama Crimson Tide this Saturday, make sure to drop by the Whataburger food truck during your tailgate. Get ready to bring home the W early with a hot, fresh Whataburger in hand. And no matter who comes out on top, when you take your team to Whataburger, you know you'll feel like a winner with food made fresh and hot every time, 24/7. See you at the game and see you at Whataburger.
Well, there's not many spots left, if we're being honest. They have 21 commitments. They're looking to maybe get to 25. That could add a player or two in the state. Again, I mentioned like someone that has a big senior season. But as far as guys, the Ohio State staff is wanting to circle back to, Luke Wafel is certainly at the top of the list. They believe he is a player who can play next season for them alongside of Kari Wilder, the defensive end they have committed from California. And it's not just about like if your team wins more games. I mean, because obviously people expect Ohio State to win more games than USC this season. The question is, does USC lose enough games that Lincoln Riley's job becomes up in the air? And until that happens, it's hard to get too excited about potential flips because we know that there's more to these conversations than there have been in years past. There's a fairly large financial component. But as far as players that have been taken from Ohio State, and I say that in this way, that both Luke Wafel and Nebraska commitment Danny Odom had essentially told Ohio State that they were coming here and then changed their minds in the 11th hour. Those are two that I think are really still on the list of like, let's keep in touch and see how things work out for your squad. Odom being from Eastern Pennsylvania, he's basically born and raised right on the Ohio-Pennsylvania line. And there was a lot of back and forth between Nebraska and Ohio State when he made his commitment this summer, and a lot of people who believe that he would have preferred personally to choose Ohio State. So we'll see if that matters as things unfold over these next 6 to 8 weeks.
All right. Well, it's going to be an exciting weekend. I can't wait to turn the TV on at noon and see Texas and Ohio State face off. We'll be talking more Ohio State recruiting as the weekend ends. But for now, Jeremy Berm, thanks for stopping by the Inside Scoop.
Glad to do it. Thanks, guys.
We got to talk a little Clemson recruiting because Death Valley will be rocking on Saturday night. It will be the place to be, not only for fans, but recruits as well. So we got Paul Strelo here. We're going to get into it. But before we get to this visit list, Paul, there's a lot of buzz right now as the season gets closer and closer. The Clemson Tigers, there's some predictions for them to go all the way and win the championship. I got you here. You're one of the experts in the market. What's your season prediction?
I think they are a top 5 to top 10 team pre-skipper. I think it's still hard to reconcile what you saw at the end of last season where they didn't have much of a running game going against Texas. They squander their lead against South Carolina. So to suddenly catapult them as a national title or favorite, really, when what we saw last year doesn't match with that, I have a hard time matching up. But I think when you look at the skilled people they have on paper, the improvements they've made on defense, I certainly think they are a contender and are justified to have a lot of hype. Talk of an undefeated season, I feel like, is a bit of a stretch.
Yeah, we're starting to hear it. You know, the hype only builds as we get closer and closer, and we are just about 48 hours away. So with that being said, let's start with some of these 2026 names that are going to be on campus for this LSU game. Who's expected in?
Primarily, it's going to be commitments. And I think the one notable name they have coming in is a defensive end from locally from Greenville, Frank Whitley. Georgia offered him after camp over the summer and has made a living with guys like him, a 6'6", 260 kid, a basketball kid who hadn't really played football at all going into this season. He's flashed so far in some of his early scrimmages and camps, and I think it's someone that South Carolina and Clemson, Virginia Tech, Vanderbilt, they're all kind of kicking the tires with and involved in. Clemson did not get the defensive ends it was looking for totally in this class when Bryce Perry-Wright went to Texas A&M. So I think they will be open to looking at him as a possible target, really, as the next month or two unfolds.
All right. Now let's shift focus to 2027 because next year's class is already starting to come into focus and top targets are starting to emerge for Clemson as well. And there's going to be some on campus. So who are the most important 2027 names visiting this weekend?
Yes, Clemson doesn't usually do volume. They don't have a large visit quite like Ohio State or something. They've got about 30 credible names, offer candidates. Half of them, 15 to 16, Clemson has offered already. I think probably the biggest names that we're looking at, nationally, you're looking at Kingswood, five-star offensive lineman Kennedy Brown coming in. Offensive line's been a big theme for Clemson since Matt Luke came and really the last decade before. Mm-hmm. We've seen them bait their recruiting efforts on offensive line the last two cycles, bringing Brent and getting their shot to really set the table, I think, to be one of the 5 or 6 going into spring next summer that you're looking at official visits and junior days. I think a big visit for Kennedy Brown, as well as Carter Jones, 4-star lineman out of Virginia, who Clemson has a lot of traction with. I think that's Clemson and Tennessee are in the best shape there early, but Clemson's had him 4 or 5 times already, some family connections there. So I think those two are huge. A number of in-state guys, while there are a lot of prospects coming from around the country, there's some local flavor there that's significant. 5-star cornerback Joshua Dobson, whom Clemson is already in strong shape with. A lot of vultures for over the next 6-9 months at least. I think kind of setting the table there and getting off to on a good foot with him will be big. Another corner, Jaden Aparicio Bailey, out of Birmingham, as Clemson only has 2 corners. This did not get the big corner that they were necessarily looking for in stature. I think the fact you got Dobson and Aparicio Bailey coming in this weekend, significant. I think at linebacker, Clemson does not have one this class. To have a Caden Henderson coming in, who they've got the longest history with of anybody in this recruitment, Alabama, already in pretty well there. I think getting some traction back with him and maybe getting some more momentum with him will be significant, as well as a couple of, a Trey Segura, running back out of Burns, a local high school, the only running back Clemson has offered this class. South Carolina, both of his parents went there. Tennessee's gotten off to a good foot with him. So I think a big one with Segura coming in as well as wide receiver. Clemson's only offered one there. Jay Simmons out of Tallahassee Godby High School. Mm-hmm. Whereas a Clemson, Ohio State resonates with him, but Clemson also is in his top 2 or 3, I think, right now, and I think a chance to make a splash for him and a chance to put up some offensive fireworks with him on hand.
Yeah, it's going to be a huge game, especially laying the groundwork for some of these top targets in the 2027 class. So that takes me to my next question. What is your prediction? I want to hear from some of the Clemson fans in the comment section below as well. But, Paul, what is your prediction for this LSU game Saturday night? Inside Scoop fans, listen up. We got to talk Rhoback, and there's only one way to describe Rhoback. It's best fit, best feel. For those that aren't familiar with Rhoback, they are completely changing the game with their incredibly comfortable activewear. Now, Rhoback has released my favorite. It's their new licensed game day collection. Now, with novel polo designs and clean hoodie and a quarter zip design for some of your favorite schools, it is definitely worth checking out. Nobody else on the market is pairing these level of custom designs with this quality of activewear. Rhoback's everyday shorts or their Delta Performance pants are the perfect pairing as well. They're super comfortable. I have them. They have an elastic waistband, great fabric that is made to have the appearance of a nice looking short, but also the comfortable feel for a day on the move. Rhoback has also been proudly leading the NIL charge, having signed partnerships with multiple college football stars past and present, and they're becoming the go-to brand for college athletes across this country. Now, here's what we're going to do. Use the code JOSH on Rhoback.com for a generous 20% off for all new customers through the end of this week. Now, it's spelled RHOBACK.com. That's 20% off all performance polos, shorts, and more with promo code JOSH.
Of our three writers on site, I am usually the most conservative, we'll say, both in team record and game predictions. So we can't give away our actual score until that item publishes Friday. But I feel like right now, at this point in the week, I like where Clemson stands. And I think each team has a significant number of questions. I think points are going to be put on the board. But when you put it all on paper, I think Clemson has more in total and a little less in question. That I think the matchups favor them, home environment, just a number of different factors I think add up to right now in a game that both teams are scoring in 20s or 30s. I like where Clemson stands going in.
All right. You know what? In the Battle of the Tigers, I'm taking Clemson as well. So let us know. Comment section below. Give us your final score predictions. Let us know who do you think is going to win this one, Clemson or LSU. All right, college football season is here, and we're all making predictions, but Adam Gorney, he's making 10 bold predictions. You guys can go read this right now on the front page of Rivals.com. But since I got you here, I want to talk to you about a few of these, and we'll start with one of your bold predictions, a 5-star quarterback flip by signing day. Adam, who you keeping an eye on here?
Yeah, if you look at history, that's not really the boldest prediction of all time. I mean, last recruiting class, 6 of the top 7 guys flipped, including Bryce Underwood, who had sort of been locked into LSU forever and really hadn't been talking about Michigan at all. You look at 2024, Dylan Raiola flips from Georgia to Nebraska. Julian Sayin ends up at Alabama for about a week before Nick Saban retires and heads to Ohio State. So there is always quarterback movement late in recruiting cycles, whether offensive coordinators leave, position coaches leave, head coaches leave, bigger NIL deals come into place. Now, there might be a little more calmness in the 2026 class because of the rev share deals and the NIL deals already in place. But there are a lot of big names still to watch. I think Keyshawn Henderson will be one. If Houston's offense really struggles this year, like it did last year, that will be one to watch. Ryder Lyons goes on a mission for 1 year. We'll see if he comes back and plays it for BYU. So I think those are the two main ones to watch. But as everyone feels comfortable with their quarterback committed right now, just remember Bryce Underwood was very comfortably committed to LSU at this time last year.
Yeah, we weren't even talking about Michigan. I mean, everybody knew Michigan was there, but in terms of making a serious run, it wasn't even under consideration right now. So we'll see what happens. All right, next bold prediction from Adam Gorney, a 5-star offensive tackle, considers a flip but sticks. Who are you talking about?
Yeah, this is sort of one that isn't the most exciting or thrilling because there is essentially not a flip. I think Jackson Cantwell's locked in with Miami. I don't think he's playing games there. Emmanuel Iheanacho is definitely one who could be interesting. An early commitment to Oregon. There's a lot to love about the Ducks, but he was very Auburn for a long time. And let's see what Penn State does here, because in this, when he visited there in the offseason, he absolutely loved it there, had a really close connection with Phil Trautwein, the offensive line coach, and James Franklin. Plus, it's close to home. Plus, Penn State was basically saying, hey, you can come here and compete for national championships. you don't have to take a 6-hour plane ride to the Pacific Northwest. So
Yeah.
we will see if there's any revisiting of that commitment. But Felix Ojo, definitely one that was interesting to watch. We'll see how Texas Tech, if they stick there. I predict he will stick after Texas flirts again with him. And Keeney Pepe, definitely Miami is coming hard after him. But he is a Southern California kid, and the people around him tell me he's going to stick with USC for now.
Yeah, I thought Felix Ojo was going to be your answer. Great answers, but I thought Felix Ojo, just because committed to Texas Tech when Texas was clearly the favorite, Michigan was heavily involved, and we're going to find out a lot about these NIL deals and how binding they are to some of these commitments. But right now, I Felix Ojo probably sticks to Texas Tech. All right. Next up, another bold prediction. This one, USC does not end up with the number 1 class. So who do you think will end up with number 1?
Yeah, if you look at just sort of the history here, it's hard to go wire to wire number 1. That's first. Second of all, we've talked about USC's class, and rightfully so. They've done a phenomenal job, 32 commits. But Georgia is right there. I mean, within 0.2% of a point to take over the lead. If one player from USC decommits, if Georgia gets 1 commit, I think they would overtake them. They already have the same amount of 5 stars. Georgia has 2 more 4 stars. So the point system there is in favor of Georgia. And if history repeats itself in any way, and I don't think there's going to be a collapse of Southeast players like there was in USC's last recruiting class. I think it's a little bit of a different story this recruiting cycle. But if 1 or 2 rethink their recruitment, if Georgia can flip a kid late, if they can add even 1 commitment, they move to number 1. So, USC is doing a phenomenal job, can certainly stave off people if they add a tight end, possibly, maybe a safety. But Georgia is going to be right there. Oregon, Notre Dame, Texas right behind them.
All right. Now this one, it might not be a bold prediction, but it's still fun, and we're going to talk about it. Linebacker Isaiah Williams might not be done. You don't say. 6 commitments. He's currently back with FSU. I think FSU was his 3rd commitment, and then again his 6th commitment. So what leads you to believe Isaiah Williams might not be done?
Yeah, because my heart is beating and my eyes are open. I think that's right. I mean, 6 commitments before his senior season starts. His 2nd to Florida State. Now he says he's locked in, and I have no reason to question that for now. But signing day is still many months away, and Florida State has a season to play, including a game against Alabama this weekend. Yeah. So if Alabama throttles them, if Florida State is not back, if that momentum has really slowed, if they're recruiting like some have criticized, and you read about this a lot in the preseason, that they've missed on too many guys and they can't get it back. If they have another disappointing season, does Isaiah Williams stick? Let's say Florida comes and gets involved. Let's say Miami revisits them. There are a lot of things here to think a 6th commitment is not going to stick, and there's going to be a 7th.
Yeah. Does Georgia heat up in this recruitment? I mean, there's a couple outs for him if he wants to make a 7th commitment. We'll be tracking that one into the fall. All right. The last one, and you guys can go read all of Adam's bold predictions on the front page of Rivals.com. But the next one, a big threat for number 1 edge Zion Elee to flip. And Maryland's done a heck of a job. June and July, we didn't even talk about Zion Elee at all. But you got to imagine number 1 overall player at a position of need for almost everybody at the edge. So Zion Elee, who's a threat to flip him? Let's talk game time. All of a sudden, the college and NFL seasons are upon us, but guess what? We need our tickets, and getting deals on last-minute tickets can be frustrating when all you want is to be there for the moment your team runs out onto the field, and the Game Time app gives the advantage back to the fans. It's the hack for unlocking amazing tickets, experiences, and it only takes a few taps. The app's incredibly easy to use, and the Game Time guarantee, it means you can trust that you'll get 100% authentic tickets on time and at the best price. Plus, fees are always included. So what you see is what you pay. That's why I use the Game Time app. It's super simple, and it makes the experience of buying great seats a breeze. I've even seen NFL tickets on there as low as $100. So Game Time makes it easy to find and buy NFL tickets and tickets for every kind of event in your area. Also, the Game Time lowest price guarantee. It's where Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference to guarantee you're getting the lowest price. All right, here's what we're going to do. You're going to take the guesswork out of buying NFL tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use promo code INSIDESCOOP. You get $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. That's INSIDESCOOP for 20% off.
Yeah, there are a lot of reasons first to think that he actually sticks. He's from Maryland. He just didn't transfer into St. Francis. He's a Maryland kid. He has a younger brother who's playing in Maryland. So, playing together in College Park does make sense. Playing for Mike Loxley, who's been a phenomenal recruiter and has been able to sort of down that area to get a lot of the in-state kids to stay. There's reason to think he sticks. Plus, he's good enough to get on the field early and contribute in the Big Ten. But there are many concerns here. One, Maryland's coming off a horrible season. They did not play well last season. There was a little bit of a lost locker room there, I think.
Yeah.
And now a lot of the preseason magazines, and like I wrote, sometimes that isn't worth the paper that they're written on. But they're predicted to finish toward the bottom of the Big Ten, number 17 by a lot of magazines. And it's just a Big Ten that's getting harder to be really good at unless you have all of the resources available for you to do that. So if he goes to Maryland and sees, a half-filled stadium and a team that's getting, beaten every week or losing close games or just, hanging on to win games, and now Penn State is calling and they talk about being Abdul Carter or, all of the defensive edge rushers that they've had. South Carolina is involved. All of these schools that have done well and recruited well and talk about being the next Dylan Stewart in Columbia. Those kinds of things could be very tempting for a player of Zion Elee's stature to say, hey, Maryland, I gave you a shot. Things didn't work out. I'm going to go play for an elite program now.
All right, the season is here. Those are some bold predictions. We want to hear your bold predictions when it comes to what could happen in recruiting. Let us know. Comment section below.